Harrison's Field today is a stone's throw from a busy highway in Effingham County, Georgia, much as it was a century and a half ago when two armies clashed here. It's a fight that's been largely forgotten, a part of Union General William T. Sherman's famous March to the Sea that's overshadowed by larger battles in Atlanta and more famous ones at Fort McAllister south of Savannah. But what happened here and in the adjacent swamp on December 9, 1864, was an important battle that changed lives forever.
This is the beginning of the first initial punch by Sherman towards the city itself.
As Sherman was making his way down from Atlanta, the Confederacy still didn't really know where he was going. At some point they realized that he's coming towards Savannah.
Here on the Montieth Road, a small force of roughly 350 Confederates was ordered to make a desperate stand against more than 12,000 of General Sherman's battle-hardened Union veterans. The Confederates broke dikes and flooded nearby rice fields. They felled trees and piled up brush to create obstacles. Then they dug in behind earthen fortifications and waited for Sherman's soldiers to arrive in the bottleneck.
Here they come, boys! Fall in on your piece! Fire!
When they did, the Confederates opened up with 2 field cannons and all the firepower they could muster.
Fire! Woo!
Using the terrain to their advantage, the Confederates fought fiercely and bravely held back the overwhelming enemy force for several hours.
Fire! Go, quick! Woo! Load it up, boys! Load it up!
And then they took advantage of the natural wetland. It was in December. It was cold. Men didn't want to get wet. They didn't want to run through this knee-deep or hip-deep water. But they did anyway. And it was just a matter of how long it took them to kind of get around this obstacle to get back behind the Confederates.
They were a very tough, experienced army, and which had been through some brutal fighting. Eventually we'll get troops in behind these people, and that'll be the end of that. It just took a lot longer than they expected, and the Confederates held that ground a lot longer.
The intent was to slow them down a little while and buy a few hours, which is what they accomplished. They slowed them down for about 4 or 5 hours and delayed the siege of Savannah by about a day.
In the end, the Confederates retreated back to Savannah, and thousands of Union soldiers made camp on what had been the field of battle. Soon time and soil swallowed all that remained of this bloody day. In 2010, archaeologist Dan Elliott of the Lamar Institute received a Battlefield Protection Program grant from the National Park Service to sift the soils of Harrison's Field and surrounding land in search of traces of this forgotten battle on the doorstep of Savannah.
159.
This is the initial reconnaissance part of the survey. We're trying to find evidence for the battle. We're trying to find evidence for the encampment following the battle.
But we're really after the information that's disappearing so rapidly. And a site like this is a site that's very much in danger. That's one of the reasons it was chosen.
Well, we're trying to do it systematically, 20 meter by 20 meter samples, marking each object and digging it up to see what it is, deciding whether or not it's from the period of the battle or if it's historical objects or not. And then we map it in with the total station transit so that we have a complete map, a 3-dimensional record of where everything is out here.
Almost immediately, Elliott's team began finding hard evidence of the events of December 9th through 10th, 1864.
Well, we're standing right in where this cluster of these canister shot are located. So we're right in the middle of a blast zone from a canister round. And so these are the infantry soldiers shooting back at the Confederates that are firing the artillery at them, the anti-personnel artillery rounds. We can say, yes, this is where the action was, and this is where history took place.
One of the most remarkable artifacts was unearthed in the roadside swamp where some of the fiercest fighting took place. It was a complete rifle, smashed to bits, presumably by some impact during the battle.
Oh, that might be the butt plate. There's the butt plate, Dan. Oh, that's the gun plate. Nice gun plate. Good identifiable gun plate, Dan. Part of it was still sticking up out of the ground, and we were real surprised when we saw it. And it luckily anybody had disturbed it because all the gun parts are laying as it was dropped.
About an hour ago, we found a gun laying on the ground, and it's in the location where we think the Union troops are trying to outflank the Confederates, and they're getting shot at. And so we have, not very far away from this gun, we have fired Confederate bullets. So we think we're finding another piece of the battlefield here that we didn't know, we've just discovered, and hopefully can find more of it. But the exciting thing is this gun.
To find all the parts like this is just so neat that it's just not even funny. I mean, this is a real treat.
If we can identify the gun, we might can identify the regiment. If we can identify the regiment, we might can identify the soldier that got hurt here, who might not have been able to bring his gun home.
Look at this, Dan.
Another gun?
I don't know what it is. Too little. I guess it could be.
We could be looking at the fiercest firefight portion of the battle right where we're standing now. 19 grams.
The rifle parts and all of the other myriad artifacts unearthed by Elliott's team were brought to his small but organized laboratory for cleaning and further study. The artifacts are washed, measured, sorted, and cataloged. Now these pieces of the past can begin telling their stories.
But you can tell there's a lot more Union bullets compared to Confederate bullets. There are 12,000 Union soldiers attacking 350 Confederates, and that's pretty well manifesting itself in the bullet record as well.
This is how archaeology is done. It basically reveals to us more pieces of the puzzle. And as these pieces are unearthed and we analyze them in the lab, we're able to find out more about the history of the site.
If I can, guys, I'll tell you all a story that I was told about one of these years ago.
But the work wasn't confined to the battlefield and campsite or even the lab. Elliott and his team took their research a step further by meeting with lifelong Effingham County resident Jerry Dotson. His family has owned Harrison's Field since the mid-1870s.
Probably 150 to 200 bullets has come out of that field in various...
Dotson's home is a virtual museum full of artifacts he's unearthed on the field over the years.
These are just a small number of the bullets that were picked up in the field. This is a Chatham artillery, yeah.
That's a snake that says, "Don't tread on me."
Don't tread, right.
This is somebody's gun, personal gun that was stashed down in their boot, maybe. Or...
Dotson's collection even includes firearms picked up on the field by his ancestors shortly after the battle took place.
How my grandfather ended up with it, God only knows. I wished I knew.
These buttons, bullets, and other assorted items help the archaeologist fill in the blanks about what else might once have existed on the site. But for Dotson, it's more than just a collection of things. It's a personal connection with men who fought and died here a century and a half ago.
I can't hardly put that in words for you. It means so much. God, that had to be just terrible, having to do that, fighting against your fellow countrymen and all that. But to answer you, I can't imagine the feelings, that they had back then. But I can also understand why they did what they did. And just to think that actually a human being from either Ohio or Illinois or wherever he may be from, this poor guy's down here 1,000 miles or further, from home, fighting for what he believes in. The Confederate guys, they're out fighting with no shoes on their feet, a lot of them and everything, and just the pride and all that went into this war on both sides. It really, to me, has just some strong feelings, as to what really took place back then. I can't even comprehend them. I really can't myself. I try to, but it's hard to do.
In many ways, the modern-day events on Harrison's Field are a success story, the results of historians, archaeologists, and landowners coming together to get National Park Service resources to study and preserve this historic battlefield.
To me, this is a really happy ending. This is how it ought to work. Somebody does the research, you write the paper, you tell the story, and then ultimately that generates enough interest that somebody says, well, maybe we should do an archaeological dig, or maybe we should put a marker up, or it leads to something that recognizes the event and it's not lost.
But there are threats just as menacing as the muskets and cannons that fired here a century and a half ago. In this case, commercial and residential development. It's up to individual landowners like Jerry Dotson to make sure the stories written here in blood and sweat are never wiped away.
This field down here in all the Harrison field has been in my family for about 140 years now, and maybe a little longer. And as far as I'm concerned, it'll be there forever, and it'll be untouched. It's not going to be molested in no way. And I know that may change with generations to come, but not with me. You know, it'll stay the same way right now.